Well, good morning again, brethren. Welcome to another daily devotional. Today we're going to complete our wee series of studies on that phrase of Paul's that we are to conduct ourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Today I want us to think about the consistency that is demanded by what Paul says here. And it comes out in two ways. It comes out, first of all, in the tense of the verb Paul uses. It's a tense that means that's to be an ongoing, regular activity. In other words, it's not something that we're to do in fits and starts, as it were, maybe for an hour or two on a Sunday when we're in church, and an hour or two maybe throughout the week when we're back in the company of believers. But rather, it's to be our habitual practice, day in, day out, week in, week out. We're to live as those who are citizens of heaven and to live in a way that is worthy of the gospel. That is to be whether we're in our homes with our families, whether we're at our place of work, whatever that might happen to be, whether it's we're out socialising, or whether it's we're with our friends, maybe at some club that we're a member of. Always, under all circumstances, no matter what's going on, we're to live our lives worthy of the gospel. The idea of consistency comes out as well in what Paul goes on to say in this verse. He says, whether I come and see you, or whether I only hear about you, I might know that you're standing firm in one spirit, and so on. So, in other words, Paul didn't want them to live a really good Christian life and do all the things that were worthy of the gospel just when he was there with them. And then, when he wasn't there, they were less faithful, less consistent. No, he wanted them to live a life worthy of the gospel, whether he was there or not. In other words, their pattern of Christian living was not to be dependent upon Paul's presence or absence. That wasn't to be a factor in the equation of their daily conduct. They were not to live primarily to please Paul. They were to live to please and to honour Christ. Later on in this letter, he's going to address the matter of disunity that had begun to raise its ugly head in the congregation. And that disunity epitomised the breakdown in the relationships between Euodia and Syntyche. Now, here's the question. Would such disunity have arisen if Paul had been present in Philippi? Or did Paul's absence result in them being less disciplined and diligent, and because of this, the disunity arose? Now, brethren, this is very important because it's all too common a frailty for us who are Christians. Lack of consistency. You can see it, for example, in attendance at worship, at the prayer meeting. Very often it's dependent on who's actually going to be preaching that day or taking the prayer meeting that night. If members of the church know it's their own pastor is going to be there, they'll likely come. If he's maybe away preaching somewhere else, or if he's on holiday, there's a great temptation not to go out, not to hear the man who's coming. Inconsistency. There are things that you wouldn't dare say or do if you're in the presence of your pastor, that you do say and do when he's not there. And this is something that we all have to think about. We're to be consistent in living a life worthy of the gospel, no matter whether such and such a person is there or not. We are to be people whose lives are not dependent upon the absence or presence of someone else. In my time as a minister of over 32 years, I have to confess it's been gravely disappointing for me to see people who, when I have been their minister and have been present in the congregation and so on, that they seem to be going on well as Christians. They're out at worship morning and evening, they're out at the prayer meeting, and things seem to be going well. And then I have received a call to another congregation, and in God's providence I've been led to leave there and to go to this other congregation. And maybe a year later I have learned that that particular person is no longer attending worship regularly. They're never out at the evening service. They rarely come to the midweek. And it was all, it seems, very much dependent upon me, the pastor, or whoever the pastor happened to be, being there. They were living to please the pastor. We should be living to please Christ. So let's take to heart Paul's command and live a life worthy of the gospel and be consistent in it. May God give us the grace and the strength we need, not only to live such a life, but to live it consistently in the days ahead. Have a great day. God bless you.